What's up, everybody? And today we are talking Nasty Nas, Nasir Jones. Is he the worst beat picker of all time? Hell no. But I want to talk about why often he is labeled with that crazy, crazy label. Let's talk about it. Let's go.
Gotta live for today and forget about the past. Fighting with yourself, fighting with your life.
What's up, everybody? And here we are talking hip-hop talk. Nasir Jones, Nas, godson, just one of the greatest, if not the greatest MC of all time. My favorite MC. And, you know, I just did, when I first started really doing hip-hop reviews, I think the first review I did was King's Disease, which is produced by Hit Boy, and everybody was loving the album. And it made me think about something when Benny the Butcher's album came out with Hit Boy. You already started seeing memes talking about, you know, Benny has better beats than Nas. Nas is the worst beat picker, even though a few months ago everybody loved the Nasir King's Disease album for the beats. People really liked it. And I remember doing the review and talking about the Kanye project, and actually a lot of people were talking about how it was underrated and they liked the beats on the album. But, you know, if you're a hip-hop fan and you're, you know, really into this, you know he often gets labeled as the worst beat picker of all time. And I can't remember where that came from. I heard Vlad. I really don't care what Vlad has to say when it comes to hip-hop, but he started this thing about him being the worst beat picker, and then he's dropped King's Disease, and I haven't seen any videos about it, so it's like a one-way thing. I don't think he's the worst beat picker. A lot of people, I don't think that, but he's often labeled that. And when people, when he drops an album, people are always a little scared. The only reason I was scared with the last album, with this last King's Disease album, was because of the Kanye project that I wasn't a fan of. I went back, I listened after I reviewed the album, King's Disease. I still don't really like it, but I think he gets labeled like that, not because of Vlad. Vlad, I think, is just on his Vlad stuff, and he'll always be on his Vlad stuff, and we can't take anything he talks about seriously, especially when it comes to hip-hop. But if you guys remember, when Jay-Z and Nas were beefing, Jay-Z on disses just alluded to, like, he had a spark when he started, but now he's just garbage, fell from top 10 to not mention at all. Like, I think Jay actually started that talk about Nas being the worst beat picker, even though he didn't call him the worst beat picker. Him talking about Nas being great on Illmatic, and then everything after is I think started that thought from some people, especially if you're riding with Jay, and your argument is that anything after Illmatic in his catalog is whack, which is ridiculous. And you look at Illmatic, and I think he just often, I think it's the greatest hip hop album ever made, and I think he gets beat up for a couple things. I think he gets beat up for not making that classic sound, not making, you know, songs with Primo and P-Rock. People have been asking for those for years. And would I love to hear it? Yes, because I think P-Rock and Primo still do great music. But I don't think he needs to do Illmatic again to validate his career or to say that he has great beats. I mean, you guys, please comment below, let me know what you think. I mean, if you really think about it, Illmatic, great piece of work, great production. But look at It Was Written. I mean, great production. I think it just strayed so far away from Illmatic sound that anything after that, he was doomed. But people look back at It Was Written and say, man, that was a damn good album. Like, It Was Written to me is a classic. If you think he had Primo on there, he had songs with Mobb Deep on there, he had, you know, The Firm on there. Go back and listen to that album. The beats on there are great beats for that era. So I just think they weren't what, you know, 93, 94 Nas was. And, you know, because I Gave You Power by Primo is a classic beat. And so to think that he is, you know, he strayed too far away. No, he just had a couple more commercial mainstream songs that pushed him over the 1 million, 2 million, 3 million limit, made him a household name. I mean, that's growth as an artist. And then you look at I Am, the third album, Hate Me Now was big. Nobody was talking about Nas was whack. Hate Me Now and Nas Is Like is a classic song. Where there's some songs on there that was like that I really didn't like. Yes, but man, that's a lot of our favorite MCs. Like a lot of our favorite MCs. Look at their catalog. You'll find songs on albums that you skip or you don't like or you whatever. But I always go by the 80-20 rule. And 80% of the album is great, 20% of the album is right? Or not even like just good. I mean, he has songs with Face on there. He had DMX on there. You Won't See Me Tonight is a banging song. Dr. Knock Boots is a dope beat. And I think it's just that people want only one Nas. They want Nas is like throughout the whole album. They want The World Is Yours. They want New York State of Mind Part 1 on the whole album. New York State of Mind 2 is great. I just think people they want the original Nas, and I can't even think of an MC that has been boxed in like him. Jay has been allowed to grow. A lot of MCs have been allowed to grow in their beats, their rhymes, but it's not just the beats. People want this classic version of Nas and him to rhyme over the break beats and with the scratches and the hooks and give you that feel of 93, 94 New York. But New York isn't even 93, 94 New York, right? And so this man is 45 years old, probably 46 years old. He's not going to give you that same feeling. And so, like, what he's going to do an album with all Alchemist beats, which Alchemist is a great producer, but I don't want to hear that from Nas. If he did it, perfect. But let him grow. Let the man grow. Let the artist grow. And I think he's been the only artist, to my knowledge, who really has not been allowed to grow. It's really unfair. If you look at Godson, Made You Look, just the songs that he did on Godson. Look at Thieves Theme, certain songs on Street's Disciple. I think Nostradamus did him in. I think Nostradamus, looking back at it, really, if looking back at it and grading it, I don't think it's a bad album, but it is, I think, one of the worst in his catalog. But we're talking about Nas, like, he's up here. When we're like up here, like he's up here when we're talking about his career. So anything that's mid-tier that would be great for somebody else is below for him, and we understand that. But I mean, we really have to look objectively at his whole career and look at his beats and look at his songs and look at everything he's done. Life Is Good, great album, great beats. He did large. I mean, the man went after damn near 20 years and did songs with Large Pro. Right, and you wasn't, if you not a fan of real hip hop, you were hearing Large Pro and nothing. So I mean, you got Stillmatic, you got Lost Tapes 1. The guy has a whole catalog. So I mean, but his style is different than Jay's. So he's not gonna be rocking over Jay type of production because he's not the same artist as Jay, or he's not the same artist as Biggie. But people want him to be a certain way. They want him to sound. I don't know what people want sometimes with him. I just think he's been unfairly judged by his greatness on his first album, that he's actually, people have not gave him his just due. It's crazy that people would call him the greatest MC ever or in the top 5, and I still feel he doesn't get his just due because of how great the first album was, that everybody judges him off that first album that was, damn near 20, more than, 93, like almost 30 years ago, right? And I just think, or 94, so almost 30, we're almost talking about 30 years, 26 years ago. So it's just, I think it's unfair. I don't think he's the worst beat picker. I think he has really way more classic gems and beats if you really go through it and make a playlist than a lot of MCs. So if people are really calling him the worst beat picker of all time, I think it's just a trend that people hop on. Jay-Z kind of started it, alluding to his albums, but like, I mean, Jay has some clunkers too, right? And so if we really want to be honest, like, I'm a big Jay fan. He's one of my favorites, but he has a lot of clunkers. Tupac has some clunker songs. Biggie, he didn't have enough albums to have clunker songs. Like, so, I mean, you're going to take chances and do stuff as an artist that people love and some people don't love and diehards love. And, It's just my 2 cents, man. I just think, you know, he's far from the worst beat picker. I don't even know who the worst beat picker of all time is. It's not something I spend my mind thinking on. If it's a beat that I'm not feeling, usually like for underground artists, whether it's a Cannabis or a Razkaz, like if you think about Cannabis's first album, people talked about the production didn't match the rhyme set, but I still like that first Cannabis album. Like I do, and I think a lot of people do. I just think people are expecting. Sometimes people want the beats, you know, to be overshadowing the artist, but then the artist, you know, needs to sometimes outshine the beats. I mean, it needs to be a marriage too, and it was some of my flack that I caught for the Elzhi album when I said I wasn't feeling the beats. I just wasn't feeling the beats for the project, or I wanted more Elzhi, more things from Elzhi. So it had nothing to do with the beats were whack, right? And on the album, because the beats weren't whack, and on Elzhi's album, I just wanted more from Elzhi. And I think people need to understand that people want more from certain people. That doesn't mean that the production is whack. So you know, tell me what you guys think. Leave a comment below. Please like, subscribe to the channel. Until next time, Wrecking Crew, you guys take care. Peace and love. 100. I'm out.